AI. Whether you're for it, against it, conflicted, not sure yet, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and it is going to change the world of pet photography. It's been a bit of a hot topic in our Pet Photography Unleashed Facebook group this week. It's been a hot topic in our premium members group as well, and lots of people doing the Unleashed challenges and wanting to enter the International Pet Photographer of the Year Awards are asking questions about AI, more specifically the use of Adobe's new Generative Fill, and how it compares or differs from content-aware fill. So today, let's take a look at it. Hey there, I'm Craig Turner-Bullock from Unleashed Education, and you've tuned into another Editing Toolbox video. In these quick videos, Charlotte and I take turns each every week to bring you a tip, trick or technique that we think will help with your pet photography editing. This week, I want to talk to you about AI. There's absolutely no doubt about it, but this is going to become a huge thing in the industry. It already is, and when Adobe finally release their full version of Generative Fill into Photoshop, then it's going to be hard to avoid it. We're going to need to know what it is, how to use it, and why to use it. Whether we end up using it or not is going to become irrelevant. It is a tool we're going to need to know and understand. I've got some very mixed thoughts on the use of AI at this point in time. I'm not really sure it's a good thing. I'm not really sure if it's something I will want to use. I don't personally believe that it's photography, but on the other side of things, I can see that it could be extremely helpful for editing your images more quickly, more efficiently, and in some situations, a big help in difficult edits as well. I'm going to be looking at this image today. This will be really familiar with you if you've already seen my Editing Toolbox video called Why Taking Photos Without Dogs Can Help Your Dog Photography. I'll link it right here so you can go to that one and check it out. But basically in that video, I showed you how I took this image. I needed to remove the person and the leash. So I took a blank frame and merged them together for the end result. I thought it would be really interesting to see how AI handles this, but also I wanted to compare it to content-aware fill. One of the recurring questions we've seen in the groups this week is how does Generative Fill differ from content-aware fill? It is quite different at the basic fundamentals of the process. Let's have a look first at content-aware fill. And if I just use the polygonal lasso tool to select everything that I want to remove, I can just hit Shift and Delete and bring up the content-aware fill box and press OK. What you'll see here is that not only hasn't it done a particularly good job at this, but it is actually using information that already exists in the image to fill this space. So you can see here there's a bit of pine cone here, which is exactly this pine cone here. You can see it's pulling bits of trees from various bits of trees in the image already. It's grabbed a leg from the greyhound and it's put it up the top here. Goodness knows why it's doing that. You can even see here this little bit of bokeh with the extra piece here. That's come from here as well. So everything that content-aware fill is doing is taking parts of the image that already exists and using an algorithm to fill in the thing that we want to remove with those parts. Essentially, for me, this is still a photographic process. It's a similar thing to cloning or spot healing, just maybe on a slightly bigger scale when we're trying to remove a person. But what the fundamentals of this result are is that these bits that have been filled are actual pixels from an image. They are pixels from a photograph. And even though Content Aware has not done a good and effective job at removing the person in this case, there are some instances where it is fantastic, like just removing a leash or small elements is so easy to do with Content Aware Fill. But for bigger jobs like this one, I would still be using the same technique of taking a blank plate at the session so that I can merge them together afterwards. So let's think about Generative Fill, and let's have a look at that next. If you think about how Generative Fill works, we're going to make the same selection, and I go Generative Fill. So this is the beta version of Photoshop. I've got Generative Fill here. Now I can just type in some prompts to do what I want to do to the image, i.e. remove the person and the leash. What is then happening is Adobe is sending my prompt back to Adobe Stock. It's looking at all of the images there, and it's going to fill this selection with artificial intelligence generated content. It's creating something brand new from scratch. And in my opinion, that isn't photography. The very definition of photography is capturing light, and whether that's on a film or a sensor in pixels doesn't matter. But what is happening here is the content is being generated from other content elsewhere. I think photography is a little bit of a mislabeling of this process. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent again. That's not what I'm here to discuss. Let's have a look at what Generative Fill can do. So I've tried a couple of things already with different prompts. So let's take a look at those. This here was the result of me saying add forest. Yeah, there's a little bit more forest there, but now we have a new person. I don't really want a person here at all. It does give you 3 variations every time you put in a prompt, so you can look at several options. Now that's put in a tree. It's still not fantastic. I don't know what this is, but it hasn't done exactly what I wanted to do here. So then I changed the prompt and I said make trees. Now this is a little bit better. It's got rid of the person. It's given quite a realistic looking tree. I even quite like the way it's put this plant and foliage going up the side here, which kind of ties in with the environment that the dog is in already. That's our options there. That's not too bad. And there we go. We've got another tree that's very similar here with ivy coming up the side as well. The leaf shapes aren't perfect though, but really it's pretty good. So I changed my prompt one more time and I just said remove person, and this was the first result that came up. We've also got this one. We've also got this one. All 3 of these are pretty fantastic results, and even down to the ground cover with ivy, the bush coming up the tree here, the out of focus ivy, and it's created this new content that looks pretty convincing. I guess in a situation where I hadn't shot a blank plate like this to fill in the background, this is going to be a really easy go-to that you can't really argue with the success of how it's going. It does have limitations at this stage. It is only available in lower resolution. You can't make a high resolution result. I'll hit Generative Fill. I'll just type remove in here and see what happens. And there we have the result. All 3 of those are perfectly useful and acceptable end results. This is something that you can do pretty easily with the patch tool or content aware fill, but just typing in a quick command and pressing remove is so much easier. So let's have a look at those results again. So with content aware fill, not really a usable result. Even if I go in and reselect some of these things, I'm not going to be able to get a result that isn't either duplicating what's already in the image or having some kind of discrepancy in the depth of field or the plane of focus. So content aware fill in a situation like this is absolutely no good at all. However, if we look at what Generative Fill has done, it's done a pretty remarkable job really. I will leave that with you. I don't know where I'm at with this at the moment. I understand how useful it can be, but for me personally it's gone beyond photography. I'd love to know your thoughts and your comments, so leave them down below, and I'll see you again in my next Editing Toolbox video in a couple of weeks' time.